Shalom. Before I begin, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Bacha Kodash. I would like to say double honors to my teachers, the men whom I've learned this truth from, the apostles, bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. And I'd also like to say Shalom and salutations to the elect that's out there preaching this word in truth and sincerity. I'm the brother Shaquat from the branch of Great Millstone, Montreal, with another in-transit lesson. And this lesson that I'll be getting into today, I'll just basically be flowing in the spirit. Basically going into the fact that, it's important to, be humble and keep your head down, in His truth. And I'm still, I'm still a young brother in the truth, man. And I still got a lot to learn, a lot to learn, man. But with that being said, something that the elders and the apostles, the bishops, the men that are ahead of me often talk about or teach me, and other younger brothers, is to be humble, And this is just me reiterating it to myself and, whoever's out there listening, that's younger, But yeah, it's important to be humble because with the Lord, you don't know, you don't know because the Lord deals with predestination. And that's why, we call ourselves the hopeful elect, right? The Lord already knows who the elect is, and we don't. But guess what? That's why we call ourselves the hopeful elect, because we hope to be a part of the elect. Scriptures say many are called, few are chosen. So there's a lot of people that are, a lot of brothers, a lot of spirits that are called into this truth. Only a few of them, are chosen, right? Only a few of them are really a part of the elect, So that's what we strive. That's what we have to strive to be. And a part of being the elect, a part of the characteristics, it says, holiness, meekness, humbleness of mind, basically humble, and not to get too proud and not to get too high and mighty because you have this truth, or because you're in the right camp, and so on and so forth. You can't think of yourself better than somebody else. That's the worst mindset to have, That's the worst mindset you can have. Because the Lord could take you out just like that for having that haughty mindset, right? Moses comes to mind. The Lord didn't make Moses see the promised land because he slipped up. He slipped up and took credit for what the water that was that came from the rock. That's when he struck the rock, he took credit for it, man. So that little instance made something as dramatic, or made something as big as the kingdom, not the kingdom, but the land at that time, right? Not seen by Moses. But it's just going to show you how terrible it is to fall in the hands of the Lord, man. And that's why it's important to be humble and keep your head down and just be doing the right thing, not to get too puffed up, because the scriptures also speak about that, knowledge puffeth up, because we also have, and I've seen examples of men that pretty much got puffed up because of the knowledge they had, and the apostles spoke about many men that this happened to. You might get too proud because you know this much more than another brother, and now you think you're the shit. You think the Lord is only dealing with you, But that's not a good mindset, because those men are not here. Those men are spoken about in past tense, and that's what you don't want to be, man. You don't want to think you got it all figured out, and then start behaving a particular way. You have your behavioral patterns change. You know, you have a lack of respect for those that are around you, and so on and so forth, man. You know, you start lacking order, you know, and ultimately the Lord is going to take you out the truth, right? And that's what you don't want, man. The Lord to take you, to fall into the hands of the Lord, and next thing you know, you're out, right? You know, and even most recent, I think the brother in Baton Rouge, not the brother, that man, I can't refer to him as a brother because he's no longer a brother, right? That shot up the church, or not shot up the church, like vandalized a couple churches, man. You know, the Lord bugged that man out, you know, because he was seduced by another doctrine, you know. And yo, shit, that's why, yo, you know, me, when I see things like that, yo, it's scary. You know, I don't want the Lord to do, because the Lord is capable of doing that, man. You know? So it's best to just try to, you know, be as humble and meek as possible. And, you know, on point as possible, man. Because the Lord can do things like, the Lord has, you know, that kind of power, man. The Lord's power is no joke. You know, and that's something that's really underestimated in the world. The power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. It's serious, man. You know? Because even your situation, the Lord can create a scenario where, yo, next thing you know, you're bugged out, man. A scenario leading up to you being bugged out. You know? Man. You know, and that's what an author is. You know, that's what Yahushua is, right? That's why Yahushua is known as the author and the finisher of our faith. But an author could create a portrait or whatever, a book, you know. But in Yahushua, in this case that I'm speaking of, the Lord can create a scenario where, yo, your situation is, you think it's good, all is good, but it's slowly chipping away and leading up to your destruction, man. That's what's so scary, you know? You know, that's why it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, man. You know? Amen. So with that, I hope this lesson was edifying. It was short, to the point, Lord willing. Most importantly, I hope it's edifying to the elect. So with that, I want to say, Layimla, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem I'd like to say double honors to my teachers once again, the apostles, the bishops, and elders of Great Millstone. Until next time, Shalom.